So let's talk about how to find the area of a triangle. Before we talk about the formula for that, I want to talk about the different parts of the triangle. So this bottom part that it's sitting on is called its base. And same over here, this is a base. And the height is like when you stand in the doctor's office and they want your height, that's from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, and they always want you standing straight up and down. So a line that is straight up and down is the height. You'll notice that this is not straight up and down, and neither is this. So they've given you this little imaginary dotted line here. So that is your height, and they'll give you that. They'll always give you that if you need it. We didn't need it over here because this line was already straight up and down. And then any of these diagonal lines you see, those are just sides. You'll notice when we write our formula in a minute that there is no S for side in our formulas because we don't use sides in our formulas. So the area of a triangle can be found using this formula. Area equals 1/2 base times height. And when you find half of something, you're actually just cutting it in two pieces. The reason that it's 1/2 base times height is because if I have a rectangle and I cut it in half, or I divide it into two pieces, cutting in half is just dividing in two, I now have a triangle. So the area of this triangle is half of the area of the rectangle. Rectangle is base times height, so triangle is half of that. Another way of writing that, and the way that I typically write it, is base times height divided by 2. Because again, if you're finding half of something, you're just dividing it into two pieces. So that's my preferred formula. And so in this formula, we're doing two steps. We are multiplying the base times the height. And then once we get that, we're dividing by 2. And remember, none of that included anything with a side. So if they give you the sides, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, we're not using those. Don't use sides. We're going to look at two examples of how we would do this. So the first thing I always want you to do when you're finding the area of anything is to write down the formula. And so for this one, area equals base times height divided by 2. They've given me way more than just the base and the height. So I'm looking for anything that's a diagonal line. I'm going to get rid of those because those are sides. So I only want the base and the height. Then I can fill those in to the formula. The base is 20, the height is 8. 20 times 8 is 160. And 160 divided by 2, or half of 160, is 80. And so my answer for this one is going to be 80 square centimeters. Remember that area is always in square units, and so since this was in centimeters, my answer is square centimeters, or centimeters to the second power. Okay, on this next one, it's also a triangle, so I'm still going to be using this same formula. My base is 4, and my height is 3. I'm going to cross off the 5 because it's a side. 4 times 3 is 12, and half of 12 is 6. And so because this was in feet, my answer is 6 square feet. So it's the exact same process as we did with rectangles and parallelograms, except that now we're dividing it in two because triangles are half of a rectangle or half of a parallelogram. Watch it again if you need help.